Hey, everybody, and welcome to Between Two Stands. Thank you for tuning in. We are going to do somewhat of a prelude episode today before our normal content.
Hey, everybody. First off, thank you so much for all your support these past couple weeks. We really were genuinely surprised in the overwhelmingly positive response that we've gotten about the show. And we're really excited to continue bringing you new content and new ideas from here in Detroit. One of the first questions that we got on the on the pilot episode was from Randall. And he asks, what composer would you like to go back in time and ask them to write a concerto for you? So maybe let Scott answer that question first.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I love this viewer mail section, so I'm very excited about this. The composer I kind of wish would have written a concerto for me. Let's see. I mean, Mahler is the obvious answer, even though the horn parts that he wrote are so fantastic. He kind of wrote the obbligato horn part in the Fifth Symphony. If for those of you that are familiar, it's a big deal. But I kind of think I would like a Ravel concerto. I really feel like the way he used the horn is incredibly challenging, and there are different colors. And I also think that I think we're missing a lot of like big orchestral French pieces for the solo horn, and that would be fantastic.
Well, that's a good choice.
Nice.
Yeah, Andrès.
Andrès.
That's tough. I think I just have a huge respect for Mozart and just his kind of mastery of writing and effortlessness of writing. And I think if percussion instruments were at his disposal, I think he could have written some really cool sounding things. Especially, there were small instruments like triangle and cymbals and whatnot, but if the vast majority of percussion instruments were at his disposal, that could have been pretty fun.
So it'd be like triangle hanging by a thread?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure it falls on a cement floor.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, I love that. I totally see what you're saying. Like we are lucky to have 4 horn concerti by Mozart, but I can't help but think it's funny, like the Mozart snare drum concerto.
Yeah. Hey, he would make a way to make it nice. No, I mean I'm thinking
Probably.
more like melodic stuff. Yeah, maybe not snare drum. You can only hear that for about 2.5 minutes, but.
Well, it could be like along the lines of if he had access to like Christopher Rouse's
Right.
full assortment, then
Right.
it would have been really amazing to see what he would have come up with.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, what about you?
I'm going to stick to the answer that I put down during the premiere of the pilot episode. I'm going to say Mendelssohn. Felix Mendelssohn is just, to me, one of the most incredible composers. He did things. The Mendelssohn Octet is just one of the best chamber music pieces to me in the repertoire, and he wrote that when he was only 16 years old. So I say Mendelssohn for a cello concerto because I just feel like he had this amazing way of making an instrument sing, or even just soar. I mean, you listen to some of the piano parts for his piano concertos, or even just the sonatas that he wrote. It just sounds like the piano's flying, and the Mendelssohn violin concerto also just, I feel like the sonorities and the melodies that he came up with for that, and just the sheer joy that he puts into that piece. I really wish that there was a cello concerto by him like that.
He died way too young too, right? I mean, he died like very prematurely. Yeah, that's a bummer, but that's cool.
He's one of those rare composers that didn't have like a tormented life. He was sort of fine for most of his life and still wrote this amazing music. Kind of maybe even underrated, I might say.
Do we got any other audience questions?
Yes,
sure do.
So let's okay. So this is a really interesting question, and I think we get this quite a bit. But so what pieces do you find the most irritating or vexing to play?
I'll start this one off.
Okay.
I feel like, especially with percussion, percussion is such a broad term. I mean, anything can really be percussion. So, especially in music nowadays, I mean, there's fantastic music written, but it can be very challenging to play contemporary music because of the instrumentation required. I mean, there are some concerts where I'm sure you've seen that the whole stage is covered, and you have to write in choreography to get from this to that to this to that, and make sure you have this mallets and make sure you drop those. So it can be very difficult with contemporary music to execute. But that being said, it's a fun. It can be a fun challenge too. So it's not a knock on it, but it does get challenging with many pieces nowadays to play.
Isn't it like you don't have all the parts on all the music too, so you have to make sure that the right music is in the right place and the right instruments.
Right. Sometimes, you have to turn the page to this instrument to make sure that when you go to this instrument and come back, you're on the right page. So you're not. So it's crazy. It's like a dance. It's definitely like a dance. Oh, and you have to remember not to bump into your colleagues too.
Right. or knock over instruments.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly. So. Right. So yeah, that is my personal challenge.
It's a totally different lifestyle than just sitting in a chair and playing.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely. Aerobic.
Yeah.
I feel like it's sort of a two-answer question for me, because it's like which one's more irritating to play and then which one's more challenging. And like the irritating, this piece, it's beloved by so many. And just for me as a third horn player, fellow third horn players, please comment if you have also experienced this. But William Tell Overture by Rossini.
That's one of our best pieces.
We play it a lot because it's so recognizable. We do it for children's concerts
You've told me this before. I remember you said this.
Without the cello opening, by the way.
Yeah, we always skip to straight right where the fanfare starts, which is where the difficulty begins for the third horn. It's the challenge isn't so much that we're overly exposed, we have big solos or anything like that. It's just that from that moment to the end of the piece, the horn is on our face and we're playing something. It's like we might have, and this probably sounds like a novel problem to a cellist, where the rests are often not existent. But when you have to breathe and when you have a piece of metal against your lips, and there's just no rest at all, it is really exhausting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's like an irritating piece to play, even though I recognize, hey, it's great and people love it. It's just for my part specifically, and maybe because Rossini was famous for writing the overture on the way to the premiere. Maybe he was just like, oh, third horn can do it. I don't even know, but that one in particular.
I bet people will have a appreciation for that now, for your part in particular. I feel for you. I feel for you, bro.
Third horn players, please comment. Give me some back up here. As far as challenging, I would say that already mentioned once, Ravel. Maybe because the double horn that we play is very different from the French style double horn that he was writing for, or not double horn, but horn that he was writing for. We're often asked to make these really delicate colors, and most of the time we're aiming for this enormous sound that it kind of seems counter intuitive as far as to what we normally do. But Ravel often wrote very difficult horn solos that are also very beautiful, and I would say that's challenging, whereas the William Tell would be more irritating.
What about you, Abe?
So this is a tough question because I feel like mostly it has to do with more recent works that have been composed. For me personally, I feel like the most frustrating thing about playing a piece is when you really don't have time to enjoy what you're doing on the stage. Mm-hmm. And so whether it's because the rhythms are so difficult, or there's a gazillion notes, or or just fitting it together is really complex, and you're having to be really attentive to what's going on without being able to sort of listen to the music as a whole. I always find that a little bit frustrating because I get to the end of the piece, and even if the concert goes well, sometimes it just goes by so quickly, or I was focusing so much on, making sure that it was stayed together, or some other aspect other than sort of why I enjoy playing, in an orchestra. That's where I sort of feel like I get irritated. And sometimes that could be from, just an individual performance where maybe, we've got a 1-year-old right now. And so sometimes I'm exhausted, and it could even be like, I'm exhausted and we've got a particularly challenging piece, or just, a new modern work that, is extremely challenging. So that's where I sort of draw the line. I don't have a particular piece or composer that I get frustrated by. I just, whether it's an individual performance or, I don't know. It's a tough question, but I just enjoy, listening to the orchestra as a whole while we're playing. Yeah. And sort of experiencing the performance. That I feel like if I miss that, then I feel frustrated.
Well, guys, I'm looking forward to answering more of, questions from the audience. I think that's going to be a very cool addition to this show. So, I'm excited about that. And we will thank you all, the viewers, for tuning in. That's really made us feel great. And I think this is going to be a really, really fun show. And we're going to continue with the rest of it. So, stay tuned. Scott, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, being safe, staying inside as much as possible, trying to practice a lot. How about you? How are things going? You're still in the
Carolinas, right?
Yeah. I went down south when this all started to, spend time with the people that I wanted to be locked up with, and not by myself. So I got out to the warm weather. It's getting a little too warm now, but I won't complain about that to the people in Michigan. How about you? How have things been going?
Well, I found out that my wife is good at many things. I will preface it that, but I found out that she's not good at hair cutting. Exhibit A. So love her still. We're still together. But
it was close.
It was close. It got close. But I just figured I would address that in case anyone gets a glimpse and and they get worried. But other than that, I've been great, man, and it's all been good. Anyway, today we are very excited because we're interviewing acting concertmaster Kim Kennedy. Kim grew up in Dayton, Ohio. She joined the DSO in 1998 when she was a senior at the University of Michigan at the age of 22, which is incredible, and became associate concertmaster in 2003. In 2019, she was appointed acting concertmaster. She has performed and won many solo competitions as well as soloing regularly with the DSO. Kim is married to Brian Kennedy, fourth horn of the DSO, and has 2 children, Ethan and Lauren. And hey, Kim.
Hey.
How are you?
How are you guys? So
Doing
good to
great.
see you.
It's great to see you.
We're really glad to have you.
Yeah, really good.
Thank you.
It's been too long, It's obviously under strange times, but I hope you're keeping busy somehow. It sounds like your kids are keeping you busy.
The kids they're definitely one part of actually it's wonderful. It's been really great to actually have all this extra time with them, and my son's going off to college. Well, maybe we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but he's supposed to go off to college, and so this is like very valuable time, just last minute, soaking up every chance to be around my kids as possible.
Bonus time.
Has this been a big bummer for him, being his senior year and having the end of it being like all those traditions and everything just kind of just crushed? Like how has he been coping with all of that?
He's amazing, actually. He's really chill about it. I think the biggest disappointment is lacrosse season. This was his final year of lacrosse, and he was going to be the senior, one of the captains, and it was,
That's a bummer. I can't imagine that, but it's good
speaking
for you.
Speaking of hair, my daughter helped cut my hair the other day. So
oh my goodness.
I thought she helped pretty well.
There,
I just
there are
needed
a
to
lot
learn
of
how to
jealous
color.
people watching.
Can I hire her? Can she fix it? Can she fix the job?
I don't think so.
Yeah. This is unfixable, unfortunately.
There's only one way to fix it. You got to get
we
it
had to
all.
put mascara on it. We put mascara on it yesterday, and it worked. But like, I don't know.
I know. I've given up because I'm running out of my coloring devices.
I like it. I like it. It's got like a little pop of silver color. It's good.
Yeah, it shows my maturity and wisdom, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, Kim, we're gonna start this tradition off, these episodes off with asking, what music is on your stand right now? Like what music are you practicing currently?
Okay, well, there's a project that the first and second violins of the Detroit Symphony are getting ready to do. It's just a brainstorm. We're still in the formative stages of it, but it's Bieber or Bieber. I never looked.
Justin Bieber?
No.
Oh.
the composer back in the 1600s.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, Justin Bieber. It's Justin
know.
Bieber. No.
Bieber. I didn't look up how to pronounce the name.
Oh.
But Adam Stepiowski, our acting principal second violinist, he suggested this as the piece that we can tag team and collaborate with. So
cool.
Fingers crossed it'll work out, but that's on my music stand currently. And I am still in the process of working on boeings for next season for our library. So
nice. Right
now it's classical, I think something Ravel. I just did Beethoven 9. And that was really, I don't know, heartening because it's going to be with our new music director, Yara Bignamini.
Actually, could you explain, maybe people who don't know, like what writing in boeings entails, like just like what that is?
So we have such great traditions passed down to us from generations of concertmasters and even conductors that bring in their own music. And so the concertmaster takes a peek at everything and takes the parts that the library hopes that we can use, and I make adjustments to it. So I play through what I think, I play through what's there, and I evaluate whether that is what sound I agree with, and what feels most natural. So sometimes the original markings in the music make more sense to me, so I might go back to what's in ink. Sometimes it just feels like it's in the wrong part of the bow for the articulation, so I might rearrange that. Sometimes I feel like, no, we need more sound here, so I add some bows, just some tweaking. Most of the time, what's already in there works really, really well. But the hard part is when it has never been played before, and I have to come up with brand new boeings.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, you mentioned our new music director, Yara Bignamini, and so recently we had this Facebook Live watch party, which was the Mahler Fourth Symphony that you were playing concertmaster.
Yes.
I think you had just started. No, that was in the fall, so you were still acting concertmaster at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was wondering, like, is Mahler, did the way he write for the violin, you had the other violin with the different tuning for that symphony, and like, did the way he writes for your instrument, did it work really well? Is there a composer that writes really well that you enjoy playing, that fits well with, like, that might be easier to find the boeings for example?
Oh, I think Mahler works just fine for violin. I think he has some kind of integral understanding of the things that we would really want to do and like to do on our instruments. For every instrument in the orchestra, all of the extremes in sound, trying to find all of that. So just kind of going against our usual style of playing, which is to be elegant, which is to be, similar one note to the next, where he writes on all these swells and sudden bursts of sound. And that means that we get to just go for stuff a lot more. There has to be a lot more drama in the sound. We can't be too polite. And actually, when he wrote for that second instrument tuned up a whole step, it's literally called the double violin solos, and I'm supposed to sound like the devil. And I was listening back, and I remember that week from rehearsal 1 to rehearsal 2, shocking some people because Yadar had come to me in between rehearsal 1 and rehearsal 2 saying it needs to be ugly, needs to be uglier. And so
you have to
I remember
relearn it.
I had to get uglier. I couldn't just play, with a little hint of double. I had to much more be the double.
Wow.
And I think it just went a little bit against my nature. I don't know. I'd like to think that anyway.
Well, we're like trained to have this beautiful sound, and then when you're told to unlearn what you've learned, it's hard. You got to like snap out of it,
It is. And when I listened to the recording on Sunday, I was just like, I still could have gone farther. I could have gone for it more.
So Kim,
it's so nice with our new music director. One of his biggest things is always asking for more of us and more of the extremes. It works really well for that music.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Andrés?
Well, I was just wondering, so for the other violin, it's the same fingerings, but it just sounds higher, or do you have to learn new fingerings for that?
Okay, so everything is tuned up a whole step. And what you're seeing in your music is what you would normally play in a tone lower. So if you have your ear adjusted for a certain pitch to be in a certain spot on the instrument,
it's gonna mess you up.
It took several weeks to learn how to play that note, even though it's sounding, to have it sound different. It feels right, but it sounds so different.
Wow, that's crazy.
As a horn player, I can't say I have that much sympathy
because
we have to transpose all the time. That's like constantly what we're doing. Only instead of having a different instrument that we use the same fingerings for, we use the same instrument and use the different fingering.
Yeah, from moment to moment, you're like going back and forth, right? Do you ever use a highlighter in your part to tell you?
Oh goodness, no. The highlighter would be too distracting. But you have such a keen knowledge of this because you happen to be married to our fourth horn, Brian Kennedy.
I wish he were here part of the interview. Next time we'll have like the banter of two married musicians or something.
Oh no, we definitely want the dirt. No. But I definitely have an interest in what it's like being married to a horn player in the DSO.
Oh yeah. So I think even amongst horn players, you guys tend to be funny.
That's a good stereotype.
I think you guys tend to just have a lot of humor and a lot of this just wittiness and cleverness. And Brian would always tell me it's because what you do is so tough. You're always under such immense pressure, and that you have to have a sense of humor just to deflate the moment a little bit and make yourself feel a little, and your body's next to you, feel a little more at ease. Okay, so this goes into maybe TMI, but
that's
farting.
I've heard stories about Brian.
He has a legacy about this very subject.
Yeah.
I sit next to him.
Yeah.
How many times do you have a solo coming up and he's like,
I will neither confirm nor deny. I will say that as far as being like quick-witted and everything, Brian is a special case. It's always
so I'm lucky. Quarantine. I get this every day, except I am so opposite. Perhaps he tells me that string players can hear the grass grow because we're so sensitive, and so I think we have these opposite things going. So he tells me a joke, and I'm just like, but what about this? That joke doesn't make sense because of the, so like analyzing his joke. Just I do it sometimes.
You
just
balance
to be
each
funny.
other. You balance each other though.
Andrés, what would you say is the personality of a percussionist?
Oh man, well.
I mean, this is cheating because you are the percussionist.
Right. It's hard to. I mean, I would say that like one of the things is like not taking things too seriously is a quality that I find and people would say and definitely joking around too. That's why I feel like horn and percussion gets along pretty well.
Yeah, it helps the proximity.
Yeah, the proximity, the same. We're in the same row basically, but yeah, exactly. Kim, I've been wanting to ask you this question, maybe you could tell us a little background. But when did you become interested in playing like folk violin, folk fiddle music, and how did you hone that skill as well as going the concert route?
We're talking about fiddling.
Fiddling.
Improvisational, stylistic gesture of not classical violin, but
exactly
fiddle,
and it just has a different sound. I mean, because don't you play you play like fiddle music in front of the orchestra, like with pop shows and
Occasionally. Yeah, occasionally it does come up. And I wouldn't say that there was ever a time specifically that I learned how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just kind of came gradually when it came up that this was the style that I needed to be able to do, that I just kind of stuck with it and listened to a bunch of recordings and try to emulate and feel it out.
That's pretty incredible, actually, because it's like a different style. It's so different.
A different style. Yeah, and I think, just kind of sinking down into a feel. I'm sure you, of all people, understand, you have to feel those rhythms. You have to feel where the emphasis is or not, and where to be lazy, where to be, assertive, and I think just being exposed to that genre, and listening to great people. Not that I've done a ton of that, but at the times when I'd have to learn it, I would. Mm-hmm. But I do have to say that growing up in the background that I grew up in, I'll just tell you, my father was a music minister in a church. My mother was the church pianist and church organist. And so there was a lot of improvisational, just every week there would be like a similar song we all knew, and then people would sing harmony to it, and there would be different types of that kind of playing going on. So I maybe I didn't absorb fiddling, but I absorbed feeling. I absorbed being able to just go with the flow and figure out how to tune into that moment. And I think that's a skill that has served me for anything, classical or otherwise.
Is the first time you ever had to play in that style, was that with the orchestra in front, or was it something that you did earlier and messed around with, or was it?
I've definitely dabbled here and there. I did the Hoedown Festival with one of the singers there one year. She's actually now, I don't know what genre you call her. Sfracina is her last name, but when she was here and when I did the festival with her, she was Molly Hunt. And so just finding background fiddle things for her music, I made it up. I just came up with something. I would listen to the recordings and just kind of okay, I think this would work. And I maybe would write it down. Writing it down is sometimes very helpful for me because then I can remember it and go back to it. Okay, in this harmony, this is what works here. It's not a natural thing to just rely on. I have to kind of build on my experience with it. But my church, actually, going back to church, this church that I go to here in Plymouth, they had me learn Devil Went Down to Georgia one time.
Oh,
nice. That's awesome.
That was an experience.
That's a stretch.
Definitely.
But what you do so well is, you play something like that Mahler solo, which is so rich. You were saying so rich and elegant, and then with the fiddle music, it's such a different timbre. It's a very, it's almost like an airier timbre, a lot wispier sound. So just going back and forth, I mean, just, for people who don't know that, I feel like that's a very difficult thing to do, to just go, have a switch on and off, and you do it so great. So it's always a pleasure to hear you do that. It sounds like you've been studying for your whole life, which is amazing.
It was one of my favorite times is when Natalie McMaster came. And we did, I think the word devil is again in the song. But
there's a theme here, Kim. There's a theme. There's a devil.
I know. I think I need to re-examine my life.
Let's play a couple angel songs.
But it starts out with Bach, and then it goes into a total jam session with two violins. So Natalie McMaster and I would spar off of each other, and I was even stomping on stage.
That's awesome.
That's fun.
That's very cool.
That sounds like a lot of fun. That sounds great.
Now, if there's anybody who I would want to go study fiddling with, it's her. I'd go up to Cape Breton in an instant and just spend a month with her and say, teach me everything I can learn in a month.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very cool. We're going to check it out.
One thing that Andrès mentioned, you getting in front of the orchestra and everything, and some of the things that I know I've really enjoyed hearing you play have been several times when you've been asked to play the theme to Schindler's List, and more recently you did the Barber Violin Concerto. I think within the past few seasons.
Yeah, it was last year.
Last year, and Was that the performance where you got to use the Henry Ford, the Strad?
Yes.
And I really wanted to ask, like, everybody knows the name Stradivarius, and I only know very few people who have played on them, especially in a performance as a soloist and in different ways. And, like, can you explain what the big deal is? Because you always sound so amazing, but there is such a tradition in this instrument that we've all heard of. But can you fill us in? What makes it so great?
What would be really cool is to take like a dozen different strads and have somebody be able to perform back to back to back to back to back, same piece, same acoustics, same accompaniment, conductor, everything the same with 12 different strads. Say, because I think he had like 600 of them, 300 of them might still exist in performable condition. Not all strads are created equal, but do they set apart, after a certain threshold, do they set apart from other instruments made in the world? I would say absolutely yes, in my experience. I think the difference is that when you're sitting somewhere way back in the hall, what you're going to experience in the sound is going to have a certain quality that somehow Stradivarius knew how to build. It goes into the rafters. It goes into your soul, no matter where you're sitting. And I think there are several makers that have the capacity to get to that point. Maybe just Stradivarius did it more often than others.
Are you nervous to hold it, like, or is it like nothing?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I was the first time I held a Strad and I had it in my possession. It was a few years before this last time, and it was a performance opportunity, and I was actually traveling with it. And we had to take it to, when we left Orchestra Hall, we were driving, we're just like, oh my goodness, we have to be so careful. It's like, wait a second, why haven't we been this careful in other
You've never followed traffic laws better than that day.
I know. Like, okay, nobody come near me.
Yeah, that's
don't
funny.
make me slam on my brakes. But we even had a code name for it because we were traveling with a group, and we called it the Fisher Price.
Oh, no. That's great. No one's going to steal that.
Yeah. Who's got the Fisher? Where's the Fisher Price? And there had to be two people with it at once. And,
yeah. Well, hey, Kim, it has been a pleasure talking to you. Unfortunately, we're like running out of time here. We could go on for like double this. But thank you so much for joining us today. We are, as the beginning of the show, we have tradition. At the end of the show, we're going to start this tradition where we're going to ask everyone the same question. And Scott, do you want to do the honors?
Yes. Okay, so the question is, how does Rite of Spring go? So if you can sing any little part of Rite of Spring for us.
No. You would have had to tell me to think about it.
That's the beauty of it. Wei did it last week, and it took a little prying, but we got to do a little bit.
Any little bit we'll take. You can say no.
Okay, give me a moment.
Okay.
A few moments later.
So if I were to do this, I'd be doing the psycho part. Bum, 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 bum. And then da ya da ya da da ya.
Yes!
We got it!
Kim,
Excellent.
beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you.
You gave us 2 parts. That was perfect. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for singing. Thanks for interviewing. And hopefully see you sooner rather than later.
Definitely. You guys are awesome. I'm so glad you're doing this show.
Great. Take care, Kim.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
On the next episode of Between Two Stands, we'll be interviewing second horn Joanna Yarborough. If you have any questions for us or for our guests, please email them to betweentwostands@gmail.com and we'll try to answer them. We also have some very exciting news. You can now get brand new Between Two Stand t-shirts for a limited time at dso.org/shop. This online shop will only be open until next Sunday, May 24th, so get your shirts now. Also, don't forget to tune into the upcoming watch parties on Facebook Live. On Thursday, May 21 at 7 p.m., we're performing Tchaikovsky's Symphony No. 6, conducted by Peter Ungin, and Korngold's Violin Concerto with guest soloist Stefan Jakiv and conducted by Yuri Valchua. On Friday, May 22nd at 2 p.m., you can see an educational concert series performance called Let's Play, hosted by myself and also featuring my fellow percussionist Jay Ritchie. And on Sunday, May 24th at 3 p.m., we'll play a selection of different pieces by American composers in celebration of Memorial Day, conducted by Michael Francis, John Storsgaard, and Leonard Slacken. You can always check out dso.org/watch parties for more information. Thank you all so much for watching, and see you next time.